Hello and welcome to our today's webinar. My name is Anna Ogunusi and I will be your host for the webinar. Today's webinar we'll be talking about easy project resource management. So what are the topics that we'll be covering within the resource management? We'll talk about why should you use resource management, how to actually get the plugin of resource management. Then we'll mention what's the difference between the global and the project level of resource management. We'll talk about some filters on resource management, also some settings, and we will see how far we get during the webinar, because resource management is quite a broad topic that we could spend hours on, but I will try to cover as much as we can today. So as you can see, for the purpose of today's webinar, I have actually set up an easy project trial, the full demo version, simply for the fact that we have there all the demo data that we need, so it'll be easy for me to show you how it'll work and what it'll look like with your own data that you have in your easy project. During this webinar, should you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to use the questions and answers feature that is in the toolbar of this webinar. I will try to answer your questions as we go during the webinar or at the end of the webinar. So let's get into it. So what is actually resource management and why should you use it? So resource management is a plugin. It's like a tool. It's a plugin for easy project. It's a tool for professionals planning and assignment of work. Because resource management allows you to plan in regards to the real-time capacity of workers and estimating tasks for realization of the workload. It actually allows especially managers to balance the workload of their team members while keeping the schedule and the deadlines of the projects and the tasks. So you can. It also helps you to actually plan for the future, because based on your current planning and on the results, on the estimated time, on the capacities, and etc., you will see how much time it will take you in the future and how much it will cost you in the future as well. So it's good for the planning of the future projects as well for budgeting. So our Easy Project Resource Management is fully compliant with IPMI and PMI project management methodology standards. It's intended mainly to be used by managers who, obviously, because they manage their teams, and that can be project manager, line manager, IT manager, small business owners, portfolio managers, or HR managers. So as I mentioned before, project resource management is an actual plugin, and I will explain to you on our pricing what do I mean by that. If you are familiar with our pricing plans that we offer, we have 3 plans, which is Essentials, Business, and Platform. Resource management is not included in the first one, which is Essentials. It's only included in Business and Platform. So if you are planning to use resource management in your easy project, you either have to opt in for the business or for the platform plan that we have. You can always find out more about our pricing on our website under the pricing. So why is it important to actually use resource management? Actually, resource management is one of our most used plugins, most sought plugins, and simply it's because it's a key element to resource estimating and planning your projects, because it's simply a part of a comprehensive project management plan, because you want to execute and monitor projects successfully. Resource management has also, as I mentioned, it has impact on scheduling and budget, as well as resource leveling and smoothing. In order to effectively manage resources, your company or organization must have the data on resources demand forecasted by time period, which is why you use the estimated time into the future, and The forecast should be as far out as it is reasonable. So you have to plan your capacities and availability of your team members for the future. So what are the main benefits? Just to sum up, because I already actually mentioned it. So if you have effective resource management, it will help you to increase revenue. Because if you know how long something takes you, how much time someone needs to do it, also you can check how much time one worker versus the other worker takes to do it. So then resource management will help you to easily assess how you should utilize the entire pool of the resources that you have on a weekly, daily, and monthly basis. And that way it ensures that you use your resources to maximum effect and that the workload is balanced. Uh, it also actually helps you to uh, manage your conflict resolution, because as you know, resources conflicts that can have a significant effect on revenue. If you have an unresolved resources conflict, it may result in immediate missed revenue opportunity as well. Then also you can improve project delivery, because improving project delivery will help to reduce costs and increase margins. Resource management enables resources your team to be allocated to work based on a number of specific criteria, such as availability, their skills, location. So you always be sure that the right person is allocated the right job. Also, when you have with a central up-to-date view of the entire resources pool, you will reduce the administration cost associated with uh, maintaining your resource management. And so overall, what really resource management does for you, it gives you a good overview on who's doing what are they working on, if they have some free capacities or if they are overloaded. So you can also prevent people having too much work and being under too much pressure. And you can also check whether people have optimum workload or if they can be given some more jobs. So let's start by showing you where you can actually access resource management. So global level of resource management is accessible and available through the menu more, which is this right corner up here. And as I said, because actually our menu more is divided by the plans that we offer. So we'll have to scroll down to the business and click on resource management. So as you can see, right now we are viewing the global resource management. So who is to use actually the global resource management? It's mainly the users who need to have an overview of all resources throughout Easy Project. So it's not only within, because what you see in the global resource management is resources within the whole platform. While if you are working with project level of resource management, you will only see the resources for the particular project. So this is really good, like for instance, for HR people. Uh, so you will see all your resources on a single screen, and therefore the main advantage of the global resource management is that you don't need to be switching between single projects. On the other hand, as I said, if you are working just with one particular project, it will be much more convenient for you to actually be viewing it on the project level, which we will get to in a bit. So how should we define the display time period on the resource management, the global level. So on the global level of the resource management, we have to define the displayed time period, as in what are we viewing. By default, the period is set to from last like 30 days in past to up to 90 days. To define this or to change this, we click on the filters button that is over here and check the period under allocations. So the period can be changed. Either you can choose one of the custom, one of the default ones over here, or you can also choose a date from a particular date. So then if you have a task that would be, so no task with a start date and due date lying outside the period will be displayed. Tasks with either a start date or due date inside the period are displayed, okay? So therefore it can improve loading performance as well. So if you don't need to be necessarily looking at such a big period, just you can adjust it to your needs. That way it'll be, and also if you have a lot of team members that it's showing, it'll be loading much faster. So that would be how we access and define the resource management on the global level. And because I have been mentioning the project level a few times, I want to show you how to access that one. So for that, we have to first go to one of the projects. So let's open this project. And as you know, each project has its own toolbar, which is where the modules that are available are showing. So as you can see over here, we actually have the resources switched on right here. If you could not see it, first of all, you need to make sure that you have the resource management switched on, that you have the plugin, that you have the right plan that contains resource management. And then if it's not showing over here, how to switch it on is you click on the settings and then go to modules. And over here, you have to have this piece ticked, which is the Gantt and resource management. If it's not ticked, you just tick it and save. So let's have a look what the project level of resource management looks like. So who is the project level useful for? The functionality on the project level is a better choice for the users who need to manage resources of one particular project only. So then, meaning that they don't really need to see the other projects that you have within your Easy project. Another difference also is that the resource management on the project level is integrated with Easy Gantt. So you can actually work with both of the modules together. So we can be working with that, and we'll have a look at that in a bit. What do I actually mean that resource management is integrated with Gantt? So right now we are on the tab resources, but if we click on Gantt, we can be working with resources within Gantt as well. First of all, we need to switch that option on, and we will do that by clicking on Tools, and then we click on Resource Management. And that way, the resource management will load into our Gantt as well. So now we can see it over here. Of course, working with resource management, it requires specific rights and permissions that can be found within the roles and permissions in the administration. As you know, administration is only available for people who are admins within the system, and to access it, you would go to admin, roles and permissions, and each role has different permissions. There are for global permissions and for project permissions, and simply when you scroll down, it'll be under Gantt and resource management. So this way you can see what the particular role can view and edit within resource management. So let's, since we are already in the settings, let's go to another part, which is the default filters for resource management, because as you saw, on the global level, there are some default filters set up the way what it is showing. So the default filters, sorry, are those set as the system default, and they are active every time um, for every user who has no active filters, no other like custom filters active. And to edit those default settings for global resource management, we still stay in administration, but then instead of roles and permissions, we would go a bit down and we would go to filters, filter settings over here. And then we have resource management filters. Let me just close this. So the options for the filters, we can add a new filters. So we can select one or more filters that will apply simultaneously, such as due date, priority, etc. So it'll only filter the tasks with the particular due date or with the particular attributes that we are looking at. We can also choose the default custom formatting. So then we can also choose the default columns, which is over here. So what columns will be available? So we have these two columns over here. And this is what we are setting up here. And then we can set up things like group results by, show avatars. And then when you save these filters and then we go to the resource management, we'll be looking at the list based on the default filters. And the default filters are actually available for all users. So that was a bit about the settings that you might want to have a look at before before you start working with your resource management. And now I would actually skip back to our global resource management, simply to show you what to find, what are the pieces, what they mean. So when we go back to our global resource management, which is over here, which I mentioned to access through the menu more and resource management. So we are given this view. First of all, we have here the filters, which we already had a look at. You can be creating new filters over here as well. Then we have options in which we are choosing the columns, which is what we are seeing over here. Then we have settings. So this is really resources setting as in, so you have a default one, how many hours per day, so how many work hours you have per day. So this is what is by default to everyone. But then if you have some different settings for another particular user, such as someone works part-time or someone works weekends, etc., you can adjust it for each user over here as well. Then you can also check the default zoom, as in what particular period you are looking at. You can choose a default allocator, how you will be allocating the estimated time of a task, whether from end to start, evenly, etc. And then you have some more settings over here. So that's what the settings button is about. Then, as I said, this is the default view, so we can be looking at days, weeks, or months. By default, it's set up to the weeks, and I would say that's actually the best one to use when you're working with your resource management. Then we have the button for tools, such as we can be using the button back if we have done some changes that we want to undo, edit, and we will have a look at these in a bit more detail. Then also, once you make some changes within your resource management, make sure you use the button Save to keep the changes that you have made. So that would be the top of our global resource management. And then what do we see over here? So over here we have basically these are all tasks and they are grouped by users. So we have all the users. We are looking at the global one. So these are all the users and groups that we have within our Easy project. And then we can see all their tasks. And all the tasks together, based on the estimated time on the tasks, it creates these numbers that we have over here. And the legend for this view, we will find it down here. So if a number is in red, then that means that a user is overloaded in a particular day. So not necessarily in a, because over here we can for instance see 60. So naturally this week, a person is supposed to work normally for 40 hours a week. So we can see this this week it's 60. But even here, because it's 33, which would be okay for the week, but because it's red, it means that there is one particular day where the person is assigned more than 8 hours of work. Then we have purple numbers, which will show only when we adjust the allocation manually. Then we would have the background colors, which mean if there is something like grayish, then the user has no work assigned, which are the empty spaces. If it's in yellow, we don't have one here, then user has a free capacity. Then if it's in green, user has an optimal workload. Red background is user is overloaded. And then this orange kind of, that means reservation. We will look at reservations in a bit. So there are several things that we can work with in the tools button. And I would like to point out the balance feature, because actually balance feature is something new, which is over here. So balance feature can be found and used both on the global and the project level. And this simply means that by clicking on it, all allocated hours of all displayed user assigned tasks, so the tasks assigned to some users, will automatically redistribute throughout the entire task duration, which means from the start date to the due date, based on the user's free capacity. So it takes into account their daily work hours, vacations, as well as other task allocation. So there's also a difference between the global and the project level while using the balance button, and simply because when you're using it on the project level, it'll only take into notice the tasks that are within that project, not on our project. So I would strongly suggest, if you are to use the balance button, to use it on global level, because if the user is working on several projects, it would not really take into notice the other projects. So how does the balance actually work? It's a process that is based on the allocated type, the evenly one. which means that the hours are allocated evenly throughout the duration of a task, starting from today onwards. And only the last day of the task duration is never balanced, because any remaining hours that could not be allocated into the previous day are moved into the last day. And also, when two or more tasks overlap, their allocated hours from the day of overlap are all moved to the last day. So you might be the user might end up overloaded on the last day of the task. So once the balancing is finished, any newly created vacations are not taken into account anymore. So it will take into account only the vacations that you have had noted in the system before, but not any future ones. It won't, like any new vacation won't adjust the balancing anymore. But then you can so once if you have some new vacation, then I suggest that you use the balance button again. And once you use the balance, always make sure that you actually hit the button save to keep all the changes that has been a result of the balancing process. The balancing process is also used, always executed by priorities. So it will first start taking into account the tasks with the highest priorities, and then the lower ones. So it's really good. That's basically this column over here. So if we look at the task, the list of tasks and the Y user, it'll first start with the high, and then normal, or actually urgent, high, and then normal. So that's based on the priority. So that would be the balance tool that we have over here. Another tool that we have here is reservations. What are actually reservations? So reservations is something that was created in order to be able to book your resources um, for instance, a meeting, or if you know that there will be some project that you don't have a setup yet, you just need them to be free without actually allocating a particular task to them. Meaning, when the reservation is applied to a particular user, no task at all can be allocated inside the reserved hours until the reservation is cancelled. So this is really good, especially for meetings. So if you know that someone is out for a meeting for a whole day or for half a day, it's really good to book it in the resource management as well, because it will give you a good idea how many hours do they have, how many hours of capacities do they have that particular day or the particular week. The reservation can be always edited and deleted. How to create a reservation? So when we have a user over here, we can just like click and then drag on them. You just call the reservation, so whatever you want to name it. You have the start date and the due date. It can be within one day, or it can be like a week or anything. You can put some description. You can choose if it's under a particular project as well. You will put how much is the estimated time of this reservation and what's the allocator. So if you have it over several days, and you have, for instance, it'll be just 5 hours, it'll allocate the 5 hours evenly throughout the 7 days or throughout the 5 days. So if you had the reservation for the start date and the due date would be like 5 days apart, then estimated time is 5 hours, then the resource allocator is evenly, so it'll allocate 1 hour per day for this particular reservation. And when we save that, you can see right now it's showing in a different column. So in the subject, it'll be the name of the reservation, and to differentiate it from the task is showing in this orange kind of color. So that's how to work with the reservations, and how you can actually also, it's important how to work with the tasks itself. So when we have some tasks and we simply want to reallocate the task to someone else, we can just use the drag and drop within the system, and that way you change the assign. We can also work with the tasks in the resource management. We can be moving them forward, backward. We can be adjusting, because resource management ultimately works is Gantt chart. So you can be doing with the task what you do in Gantt. So you can be changing the start date, the due date. You can be changing the allocated hours. You can be also changing the estimated time and the allocator when you click on the task. So to change the allocator, which is good to show you over here. So the allocator for this task at the moment it's allocated from the end, but we'll want to use the evenly one, and you can see how the numbers have changed. Another thing which is also important is what are these numbers that are shown in the brackets next to the tasks over here. So as you can see in the brackets, we either have a single digit or we have a dash there. So if we have a single digit, that's just the estimated time that has been put on the task. So as you can see, it's very important when you want to work effectively with resource management, you must be using estimated time on the tasks, else it does not really work. So that's the single digit. If we have two digits over there, you can see that the estimated time for this particular task is 25, and then the minus second digit, that's how much time has already been spent on it. So you can always see it in front of each task. Yeah, so it'll be always on the left side from the taskbar that is showing. To adjust, you can see that these numbers are actually showing in purple, which is what I mentioned before, that those are manual adjusted allocation, because allocation is done based on the allocator, which we can change by right click and choosing the allocator, or we can double click in it and just change the number in a particular week, which is now showing in purple, and the rest of the hours have adjusted accordingly to the change that I have made. So I think we have covered quite a bit, which is the difference between the global resource management and the project one. We had a look at the settings, both that we can do within the view, within the button of the settings on the resource management, or also in the administration, where you can adjust the roles and permissions and the default settings. We also had a look on how to use the reservations, the balancing, also how to work with the task within resource management, that we can adjust the start date, the due date, the duration, the allocation of the time. We can change the allocator, and The last thing I would like to show you is if resource management is something you work with on regular basis, on daily basis, let's say, then it's very good to put it on your home page. So if we go to our home page, so for instance, some people might have it on their home dashboard already. But if you would like to edit here, such as you have your project count and you want to also have the global resource management there, you would scroll down to the bottom of the page and click on customize this page. And then over here, we will select a module from the list and we'll find resource management there. Again, this resource management is global resource management module, so it'll come up with the default settings. You can change it always based on what you need. We will save the page and go back, and the resource management will be saved on our dashboard. Therefore, when we work with it in the future, we don't have to be going in the menu more and clicking on the resource management over here. We can simply just use it straight away from our home dashboard. As I said, in the settings, the resources settings or the view and everything, you can just adjust what you want to see over here. You can even filter out just particular projects that you work with, that you are responsible for. So I think we have covered quite a lot, and I wouldn't want to overload you for today. So I would like to show you our documentation, which is a really good place for you to have a look at some more details, because resource management naturally is also connected with attendance management. You also have the resources dashboard where you can see some statistics, and there's a lot of stuff into it, a lot of settings. So resource management can be very simple, and also, but if you want to like adjust it a lot to your needs, it can get a bit complex. So it's good to know where to look for information in case you need some help. So first of all, if you go to under services and the training center. So webinars is a place where you can sign up for our future webinar, and also you will find there soon a recording for today's webinar as well. But what's more important is the documentation over here. And our documentation, you will find on all the nitty-gritties and all the technicalities that you need for the settings and for working with your Easy project. So over here, it would be the resource management. And today I was covering mainly this bit, the resource management, but you can also have a look at what the connected topics such as attendance, group capacity planning, the resource dashboard, but ultimately this will be the bit that you should consult. So if you want to go into a bit more detail about what we spoke about today, this is the place to go. So right now it would be a good time for your questions. So should you have any questions, please feel free to write in the questions and answers feature in the toolbar. I will keep the webinar running for another couple of minutes. Also, if you have any questions in the future, you can always get in touch with our support team in the chat window that is available both on our website as well as in the application inside. So I will leave it running. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in there. And if not, I wish you good luck with your projects, and I hope to see you at one of our future webinars.